Right. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to everyone today. Just a bit about me, get the boring stuff out of the way first. My name is Matt Collins-Jones. I'm a senior D365 CE consultant. I work for a company called TSG. We have offices all around the UK, and I'm a remote worker. I'm actually based out of Manchester. I have about 9+ years of working with Dynamics CRM, as it was previously known. I started from an end user and kind of came to a gold partner now. I've worked with on-premise, online, I've done migrations, I've done all sorts. I'm a D365 Eugene Northwest committee member with Joe Griffin, who's on the call as well. And we are running events at the moment, albeit virtual, so copying you guys a little bit there. I'm a big fan of Dynamics and the Power Platform, especially Power Automate. I've done 14 exams over the last few years on it, and I'm also a cat dad. So this is Miso, the black cat at the top, and this is Ted, the little tabby at the bottom as well. These are my Twitter handles, so you can get me on D365Geek. I also have YouTube, and this is a LinkedIn QR code as well, so you can connect with me on there. All my details will be on the final slide as well. If I bring this up, cool. Right, so the agenda for today, we're going to talk about what is Power Automate and how it differs from classic workflows. So we're going to be talking a lot about what the platform is, an introductory into what this... Okay, sorry, that was some lightning and thunder that was very close to my house there. Apologies for the jump. that was very loud and very close. We'll be juggling this a little bit from me jumping a little bit. So yeah, so sorry, to try and get back on course. So we're going to be talking about what Power Automate is as a platform. We're going to talk about how it differs from classic workflows that people in the Dynamics community are familiar with. This is a very kind of high level introductory. I'm going to be rattling through a few things very quickly, but I'm always open to questions and how to get started and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go through some example flows of how to get started, some of the differences and comparisons. We'll have a conclusion, and we'll have the Q&A and the discussion at the end as well. So what is Power Automate? So Power Automate is a low-code approach to automation. So this is a generic Microsoft slide that I've shamelessly stolen, and it's about making those automation, those complex business automations really simple for people. So one of the things that I did when I started in Dynamics was build a workflow. It was automating something that previously was a manual process, and by doing something like Power Automate and workflows, you empower the users, you increase business efficiencies, you increase productivity. So Power Automate is all about that, but even more so. It's built on Logic Apps. We've got some custom connectors, so you can connect it to over 340 data sources. It's a strong enterprise governance and security, so it's GDPR compliant. It holds logs and all sorts of cool security and governance things, and it's extendable as well. So a little bit about the history of Flow. I mean Power Automate. So if you previously knew Power Automate was called Microsoft Flow, and in November they rebranded it to Power Automate. It's been in general availability since October 2016. It was part of something called Logic Apps, so you'll often hear Logic Apps and Power Automate said in kind of the same sentence. So it's just a kind of handy thing to be aware of. The Logic App side is more of a developer approach. They have over 340 different data connectors available. So Power Automate is not just your automation inside Dynamics, it's automation for Outlook, it's automation for Office 365, for SharePoint, for Power Apps, for MailChimp. It's a kind of a collaborative platform that's data source agnostic. So it doesn't really matter where your data is. It's just all about automating those processes and trying to be sort of partial data integrator while also automation. We also have RPA as well, robotic process automation, which came into general availability in April this year, and that's the idea of kind of a a robot taking control of your system and clicking things and doing certain things. So this is helpful for legacy systems that don't have great integration pieces. You can actually have something that basically sits on your computer and executes commands for you. Right. By the way, if anyone does have any questions, just chime in whenever you like. So a quick high-level feature. This slide is basically there to antagonize people a little bit because it's very Power Automate friendly and very classic workflow not, and that's kind of the point here. So this is just some of the functionality that's available in Power Automate and some that is available in classic workflows. So there's an idea of parallel branching. So you can kind of go down multiple paths all at the same time, which leads to more efficiencies and quicker running and more complexity. There's conditional triggering on field values. For example, date in a date field, we can do conditional triggering on certain things. There's out-of-the-box connectors, so you can connect to different platforms. So you could connect to an on-premise SQL, you could connect to Business Central, to your SharePoint. You can connect all these systems together and pull data from different systems. There's run analytics, so you can see how many of your workflows have, or your flows have run, how many have failed, how many have errors, all these sorts of things. And you can do this from a centralized source rather than going in and seeing all your scheduled jobs that are failing and things like that, or workflows that are failing. There is a scheduling engine, a built-in scheduling engine, meaning that you can actually schedule things to run at certain times, and you no longer have to use little shortcuts of like having little entities that delete records and things like that to then trigger schedules and create new records and stuff like that we used to have to do back in the day when you needed someone to run on a schedule. It has a built-in scheduling engine, which is fantastic. And the one thing that Power Automate doesn't do, that classic workflows do is run synchronously. So there's no real-time workflows in Power Automate. They are still only available in classic workflows. And that is the bone of many people's contention when it comes to Power Automate, is I'll use it when you can run synchronously. Well, no. It's my response usually. So it's the one shortfall here. But it is a very important one because there are times when you need to have things stop committing to the database before we do stuff. So now that I've waffled on a lot, I'm gonna do a demo. So we're gonna run through a few basic scenarios, a few basic setup things, and we'll see where we get to. And if people have questions as we go along, that's absolutely fine. So, right, I can see Teams are in now, so I can see if anyone has any questions. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a regular workflow. So, this is a regular workflow that works and everything else. And if people follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I no longer build classic workflows. This is the only classic workflow I've built in like 8 months, and it was for the purpose of doing this demo. And even then, it didn't work originally. So all the more for moving to the next one. But what this is supposed to do is we are going to get when a contact is created, or when its parent account field is updated, we're going to go off and we're going to get the account details and the address details from the account, and we're going to pull it onto the contact. So hopefully most people are familiar with this classic workflow. We can see it's ticked, it's going to run create. If we look at the field changes, I think the only one that's set up is parent account, company name, which is the customer's parent account. So when the contact is created, or when that field is changed, we're going to run this workflow, and it's just got a single step. So it says if the company contact name contains data, so we're going to check condition first, we're going to update the record. So we're updating the record, and what we're doing is we're pulling through this data. So as you're building a regular classic workflow, you can kind of use the dynamic content on the right, and you can add these bits of data in. So if I deactivate this and show you, and then wait for this for a while. Okay, hit set properties. All right, cool. So in here, we can put this dynamic content which comes from this panel on the right. But what you also get with this is you get this, you get the related entities. So you can go off and find a related entity piece of information like the company name, account, that's the relationship name. And then we can use any data from that related entity in here. So we can pull through the account name, we can pull through the account number, we can pull through all different pieces of information. And then when a new record is created, we can pull that information through automatically. It's really cool, really simple. It's been around since version 4, version 3 in Dynamics. It's been everyone's go-to thing for automation for years and years. But Power Automate is the new kid on the block. And we're going to talk about how that differs a little bit. So this is a simple workflow. Sort of basically 2 lines, one check condition and then one execution command. So check and see if it contains data. If it does, we're going to do this, and we have these steps here. Now, here's the future. This is Power Automate. So Power Automate, it handles things in the same way as you would any other sort of workflow and things like that. So it is solution aware. You can build them. You can build them inside solutions. You can build them outside solutions. There's loads of different things you can do with it. And all we're going to do is we're just going to concentrate on this first bit of this here. So this is the sort of symbol for what's called CDS. It's kind of the underlying technology for Dynamics. And what this is saying is when we create or update a contact, we're going to trigger this. So this is your trigger step. Your first thing up here is your trigger, and that's going to enable this automation. Then this is where we start to differ a little bit from classic workflows. So the whole idea that you could get that dynamic content was really cool in the workflow. You didn't need to do anything. In Power Automate, you do need to do a little bit more. So the first step after that trigger is we're actually going to go and get that account. So we go off and we get that account because we need some information from that account. So we need the address details. So this is basically doing the exact same thing as that first workflow that I showed you, but this one we have to do a little extra step. But then we're doing the same thing straight away. So we check this, and then we can update that record, and we can pull through those contact details, so those address details. So it's exactly the same process. There's only just one slight extra step. And this is probably what you'll find as you start your automation journey, your Power Automate journey. You're going to find that there'll be small things that you just need to change and just need to think about a little bit differently, because Power Automate you have to think about it a bit more like a developer, and it's not a scary thing. Don't worry, we've all been there. We're all starting to build our own flows now and things like that. But you just need to think about things probably a little bit differently. So the system's designed to be really efficient and only pull back things that we need. So all this will do is when that record is created or updated, we're going to get the information from the account, and then we're going to update that account. Nice and simple, nice and easy. So what I'll do is I will go back, and I'll just turn this on for a second. So this is the other thing, we can turn these on and off very easily. So this is the flow detail screen. We can see stuff around the flow runs. We can see what connections it's connected to. So you can see all your data sources in here. We can see who the owner of the flow is. I'm the owner of the flow at the moment. And we have some details about what the flow is doing, the planet it's on, when it's created. So all this cool details that we tend to just sort of miss out on a lot of in classic workflows. So now we've turned that on, I'm just going to go to my environment, which I forgot to open before. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new contact. So we need a contact call Drogo, because my DC brain went blank. He is Carl, that's his name. And we're going to find a record, an account to connect them to. So we'll choose Acme Inc., for instance, and we'll hit save. And then what that flow is going to do in the background is it's going to go off, it's going to query that record, and it's going to come back. So it works like a background workflow that you're used to. So it isn't going to be immediate. It's going to take anywhere up to maybe a minute to go off and do these things. And hopefully I've spoken for enough. And there's actually data in that Acme Inc. Address, and there we go. We can pull it back and we can see that the address has come through. So it's really simple. It's just a couple of different lines, a little bit of extra kind of thinking about stuff, but we've essentially tried to do the same thing, and this is all moved around now because I was messing with this earlier. But it's really simple. It's basically trigger, action, trigger, action. It's the same thing you're used to in workflows at the moment, but there's just more power and there's more to it. By the way, Claire said she'd be my human air horn because I can talk about automation for absolutely hours. So if I do have like a 5-minute warning, just give me a nudge. Cool. One thing I did mean to go over at the start and absolutely forgot was actually creating of a flow. So you can create them in solutions, but you can also create flows outside of solutions, and there are different types of flow. So just to quickly go through them. So there is an automated flow, which is an automatic workflow. So something that automatically triggers when a condition is met. So that first one that we just showed, that is an automated flow because it's just going to happen automatically. By the way, the system is smart enough to determine what this is. So if you don't know if you need an instant flow or an automatic flow, it's going to figure that out for you, don't worry. An instant flow is something that we trigger from something. So think of it like a button that you're pressing or something else. So think of like an on-demand workflow. It's a very similar analogy here. Instant flow is something that you press to trigger and then it happens. A scheduled flow is kind of what we spoke about in terms of scheduling before. So you can set it up to run on a day at a certain time and alternate scheduling. It's really cool. The UI flow, that's that robotic process automation, the idea of having a machine kind of click things on the screen, either in a web browser or an application. Really cool stuff. I highly recommend checking out a load of videos about that because it is the future. And business process flows, they've now moved under here. Anyone from a Dynamics space might be familiar with these. It's the idea of guiding a user through a process, through a business process. But it's really cool. All you do is hit new, hit the type of flow that you want, and it's going to try and help you. It's going to say, hey, do you want to look at how we want to trigger this, and do you want to give a flow as a name? You can skip over this because I prefer the other menu. And right away, you're in here. Now, I spoke about the fact that there's like 340 plus data connectors. This is them. So you can connect to everything. So you can connect to your Power Apps, to your Common Data Service, to your Gmail, to your Teams, your FinOps, Eventbrite. All of these different connectors will either have triggers or actions that allow you to do really cool stuff and automate everything. And there's so many of them, and there are more being added each and every day. And as you click on one, so if we choose the Common Data Service, for instance, so that kind of underlying technology behind Dynamics, you instantly get all the triggers, so you can see how these are going to be triggered when a record's created, when it's updated, deleted, selected. That's kind of your on-demand one. And you can see all the actions as well, so all the cool things that you can do with these things. So these things should be very familiar to you and should be really sort of second nature as soon as you start to like dig into the platform and look at it a little bit. So it's really simple. You just hit a trigger, you set it up of how you want it to work, and then you can carry on and do any executions after that. And it's not limited to your data source. And that's the really cool thing. You can pull things in from SharePoint. You can pull things in from your Dynamics system, your emails, your Outlook, push to Teams, all that sort of stuff. So it's really cool. The next thing I want to touch on very briefly is some limitations of classic workflows. So as I said, I'm a big fan of Power Automate. I love Power Automate. I've not built a classic workflow in nearly 8 months now since making the switch. I've never looked back. And one of the reasons for that is that Power Automate gives you so much more access to data from even just a Dynamics 365 perspective. So there are some limitations of workflows that are just kind of so annoying because the data's there and everything's there, but you can't access it. And one of the most common things is things like sales products. So anyone that's worked with Dynamics in sort of the sales area, if you've ever used a product catalog before, you'll know that it's really difficult to kind of work with certain things. So in terms of things like that, you don't have the ability to update opportunity products. You don't have the opportunity. You don't have the ability to update like quote products or order products and things like that. If you try and go to build a workflow around it, you just can't. It's just not possible. It's not a thing that you can select. But with Power Automate, you have access to everything in your database, even things that you didn't know were there. So you can do things like you can pull updates from different records and do all sorts of stuff. So what this flow is designed to do is it's designed to, when we update the opportunity, we're going to go off and we're going to find a list of the opportunity products on that opportunity. And then for each one, we're going to look at the product that it's related to, and then we're going to pull the opportunity, like the ID from that product down onto that opportunity product. So again, if I flick over to one of my opportunities, and let's try and find one that maybe I've not opened or done anything with, or may have some products on. No, I'm not satisfied. Go away. In the middle of the demo. So maybe this one will work. We'll just update this anywhere. We'll just do that, hit 1. And what that'll do is that'll go off in the background, that'll look at the products on here, and it'll just access that record that we previously couldn't get access to, and we'll pull back the product ID here. So really quick, I said it's going to be really quick because I'm running out of time here, but a really quick idea of being able to access things that you previously couldn't access, and that Flow gives you all that power to do so. And the last thing is to just highlight that you don't need to stay in your system. You don't need to just automate inside Dynamics or inside SharePoint or inside Office 365. You can connect to anything, and it's really cool. So this one, all this does is it says when a record is updated, when a lead is updated, and we're going to make a lead hot, then we're going to send a message to Teams, and this is just basically pulling in some content and stuff like that, but it's really cool. So what we could do is we can go to leads, find any lead, Elmer Fudd, because it was on Acme earlier. Right, go to ratings, go hot, hit save, and then we switch over to my team that we've got here. And hopefully, if we do it in a minute, there we go. Just now, a new lead is hot, so we can post a message to our teams. So this whole tool is all about productivity. It's about automation. It's about bringing everything together, and just thinking about, you know, connecting this to that and automating this process so you don't have to do it anymore, and automating that process so you don't have to do it anymore. And it's all about giving that power back to users. So I have run through this very, very quickly. It's a very high level, but there's so much here that I wanted to like throw in and just talk about to try and help people start their journeys. So if I'm just going to go back to this a second. So the thing that a lot of people ask me about is I have like 200 classic workflows in my system. Why should I change? Microsoft haven't told me that I need to change my process yet. And I always go, haven't they? Have they really not said anything? Have they not said a single word? Nothing at all. You're telling me it's radio silence from Microsoft about whether we should change to Power Automate right now. And it's just not true. Like, Microsoft are telling people that you need to move to Power Automate. Synchronous flows, and it is that point, that bone of contention that everyone throws back when you talk about Power Automate is, until I can do synchronous flows, I'm not going to move. It's the only thing that's kind of missing from the platform at the moment. Everything else is either there or it's better. There's stuff that classic workflows just can't do. So other than synchronous flows, everything is good. You should definitely start moving to Power Automate, and my hope is that people stop building classic workflows and just start building flows, because it is the future. It's going to be here, and it's going to make your life so much easier in the long run.